It is now official. Julen Lopetegui has been sacked as West Ham manager. It's been a long time coming if you've been watching the Babbling channel. It's been a long time coming if you've been watching West Ham in general. And it's just been really poor and overdue. I think we're going to talk about the whole process. And obviously, Graham Potter's going to be coming in as the new manager. And yeah, we'll talk about that at the end as well. But let's focus on Julen Lopetegui. This was the official statement stuff from West Ham. We can skip the first bit, but it says the first half of the 2024-25 season has not aligned with the club's ambitions, and the club has therefore taken action in line with its objectives. The club can confirm everyone else has left. The board would like to thank Julen and his staff for their hard work during the time and wish him every success for the future. The process of appointing a replacement is underway, which I think everybody knows very, very clearly it's underway because it's out in the public every step of the way, as usual with West Ham. But let's start by talking about Julen Lopetegui, Sloth. 22 games at West Ham, just 7 wins, puts him with a win percentage of 31.81, which is lower than Avram Grant's win percentage was at 31.91. So that kind of puts into perspective how poor Lopetegui's been at West Ham and why he's the quickest dismissal in the club's history in terms of managerial appointments and sacks, departures. So Julen Lopetegui, sacked. Thoughts, initial feelings? Happy, sad, conflicted?
Look, I'm not going to pretend that this isn't the right decision. I think, to be honest, he should have gone after Leicester. I think a coach who has any sort of defensive quality in their game or in their tools would have gotten a better tune out of our defenders. I think we have been abysmal at the back this season, and there's no excuse for it. I do feel a bit sorry for him in the sense of how this has all happened, because it has been an absolute shambles, an embarrassment for any West Ham fan. I think it's so disappointing to see how we're run. And it's not just a case of, look, every single club in the country, if they're going to fire a manager, they go out, they find a replacement. But it's only West Ham who ever seem to make such a big bloody deal of it. We seem to splash it all over the newspapers. We seem to let the manager know before, or there's issues in terms of even Lopetegui, when he was taken away, he was watching from the stands, and we knew that David Moyes was going to go eventually. I don't understand how. Well, I do understand how we keep repeating the same mistake, because David Sullivan's in charge, and that's what he does. He runs it like a market stall, and he runs it as if it's a Sunday League football club, not Premier League football club. So, yeah, just to return to the original point, I feel bad for Lopetegui. I think this is a disgraceful way of leaving, but I do think it is, it's long overdue, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. If you look at it from the performance side, look, we've not been good enough. We haven't seen enough progression in the time Lopetegui's been in charge. You know, we mentioned before he had that full preseason. He's had a lot of investment into the squad as well, and yeah, it just hasn't worked out, and we haven't seen enough progression. But for me, I think it's really difficult to succeed at West Ham under the current ownership. I think David Moyes is an exception to that rule, and Slaven Bilic to an extent in that last season at Upton Park. But by and large, it's been very, very difficult to progress under this ownership. And there's always seems to be something new that happens every season that gets the limelight or attention. And this is one of those cases where, as you mentioned, Lopetegui didn't deserve this, no matter how poor West Ham have been on the pitch. He did not deserve this treatment from the football club. Let's be completely transparent there. It's disgraceful what the club have done to Julen Lopetegui. It really is, and I'm kind of predicting I don't think this is the last we're going to hear of this situation. I think there's probably more to it, and rightly so. But it's happened now. As we mentioned, objectively looking at the performances at West Ham, Lopetegui just hasn't performed well enough, and probably should have been sacked a month ago, as you mentioned. So it's yeah, we can definitely feel a little bit of sympathy for Lopetegui for the process of what's happened and how he has been removed from his position. But this last few days has been an absolute joke. It really has. Like, everyone watching in has just been able to see every single step of this situation. And you know what? To be honest, at least it's putting a little bit more limelight on, or pressure on, the owners or David Sullivan again, because you've now got external parties away from West Ham fans recognizing how shambolic this club is still. And despite the recent success we have had under David Moyes, it's still there. It's still underneath. It's still within that surface at the football club, and that's not going to change. So, moving on to Graham Potter, who's likely to be appointed, should be announced tomorrow after this video's launched, or it might be announced now. He looks like there was a bit of back and forth. It's now been agreed. Are you surprised that someone like Graham Potter is taking this job, especially because of the last 72 hours that have occurred, and how what he's seen, how Lopetegui's been handled by the board, and all the shenanigans that's gone on behind the scenes? Are you surprised someone like Graham Potter's taken the job?
I'm not surprised, because at the end of the day, it's a big paying job, and it is something that should be tempting. I just want to quickly cap back on the part of the statement. The first half of 2024-25 season has not aligned with the club's ambitions. Okay, what on earth are our ambitions? Mm-hmm. Because if that's the case, we should have consistently run this football club in a way that is befitting, a top 8 side. Now, David Moyes did wonders for the squad size that he had, the budget that he had, and people will go, "Oh yes, but the owners spent 100 million." Bullshit. Like, I'm sorry, that is so easily misdirected. It's because you look at the players we spent it on. You look at the fact that there is no ambition or vision long term on who we spent this on, and yeah, you can kind of say, "Oh, Allaire and Scamacca, they're solid transfers that just didn't really work out." Fair enough. However, what none of that takes into account is that we know full well that the managers at the time didn't really want those managers, or those players, sorry, or they didn't suit the style that we wanted to play. Mm-hmm. So there's this 50-50 thing of, we're just buying players to try and quell the fan base or hide away from this idea that we completely ruin everything we touch transfer window wise. And then there is also this idea that we're trying to implement a structure with someone like Stein, or even in the past, Husilos. These are people who've come in and tried to navigate the club. But Sullivan and his own ambitions to try and be this own, football aficionado and super agent David Sullivan, to come in, organise these transfers, and he has delivered turd after turd after turd. And whether that's in terms of the player themselves, that's debatable. But what is not up for debate is the fact that the deals are turds. There's no resale value. There's no profit that's really made from them. It's just a drain on the club. And that's what this lack of ambition points towards. And look, the only reason we've got a somewhat ambitious appointment, or somewhat credible appointment, in the form of Potter, is because he's free. It's not because we have ambition. It's because he's free and he's sat at home. That's it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, you mentioned there about, Graham Potter himself as an appointment. So let's take away David Sullivan's input and everything that's happened. Let's focus purely on Graham Potter appointed as West Ham manager right now. What are your thoughts on that stuff? Does it get you a little bit excited about the potential? Because we know it's going to be, again, a long-term build, a project under Potter. It's going to take time. He's coming in a really difficult period for West Ham, and the immediate priority is safety. I think we find ourselves right now 7 points above the relegation zone. So when we talk about the contract situation with Graham Potter, it looks like there's going to be, incentive-based things to meet over this 6-month period, and then it could be potentially extended to 2.5 years post that. What do you think those are going to be for Potter? What are his targets now he's coming in, and what are your thoughts now he's coming as West Ham manager? Does it get you excited? Do you think he'll meet those goals? Yeah, what does the second half of the season look like for West Ham?
Well, under David Sullivan, I think no, I think it's one of those things where Potter, for me, is a really exciting manager. I think this is almost the perfect failure for Sullivan, because he's somehow managed to get a manager in who has really worked wonders with a number of football clubs. Not just Brighton. He did really, really well when he was in Sweden. And people might go, "Oh, it's just Sweden," but he took a 4th division club up into the point where they beat Arsenal in Europe.
Well, just touching on that, Sloth. This is his overview as a manager. So, as you mentioned, started off at Osasuna, went to Swansea, went to Brighton, and then obviously didn't work out at Chelsea. But up until that Chelsea appointment, he was really gaining credibility, and it's why he landed that Chelsea job in the first place. He's now taken that break, and it looks like he's ready to. Some of his interviews are really encouraging. It looks like he's taken the time, collected a bit of money in the process, but now he's ready to go again. And yeah, as you said, I think it's a really good appointment for the type of appointment we could have made at this point in the season in January, where it's really difficult to get someone like that over the line. And as you say, it was free. So it was a nice, easy option for David Sullivan as well.
I think the good thing is as well that as much as Brighton were really well run while he was there, we should have more resources. The only issue standing in the way is how we manage those resources.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to name him. I've already named him too much. But when you look at the recruitment structure, it's a really interesting one. And whether Tim Steidten does walk away or is fired, as is potentially rumored, I think getting in a structure or putting a structure in place is going to be key to Potter's appointment and Potter's success at the club. If they have the ambition that they are talking about, you have to make sure that you're giving Potter the best opportunity to succeed. And we haven't got Mike on, but Mike will tell you that there were a number of issues when Potter was at Chelsea, and they didn't necessarily reflect well on him. I think part of that, or part of the excuse that you can use for Potter's defence, though, is that when you look at the players they've brought in, a lot of them you can tell are his purchases, and then a lot of them you can tell are Chelsea's big name purchases for the sake of trying to keep up with the Joneses and be at that very top spot. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic. He won't have the same issue at West Ham that he did with Chelsea, but I think that for what Lopetegui would have been trying to implement at West Ham, this is a good step, not sideways, but just slightly forwards, in the sense that we can take a big step if we back him in the window. But it has to be a case of now building the foundations for the football club to go forward and actually create an environment where someone like Potter can produce his best career or best few years as a managerial appointment.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's, what we need to see now from Potter over this next few months is, when we're analysing West Ham's performances on our review shows and we're looking at previews and we're looking at the data behind what we're doing, there's where we need to see the improvements. And also on the pitch, fans should be able to see a very coherent structure to how we're playing. And that's one thing I think we are going to have under Graham Potter, which is going to be a nice, refreshing change from the last 7-8 months under Julen Lopetegui, because we haven't really been able to find out that identity from Lopetegui. It's been really difficult to dissect what he's trying to do and how he's going to be successful. I think with Graham Potter, we'll very, very quickly start to see how he wants to play, his methodology as a manager, and we'll start to see whether it's going to be beneficial. But I do believe, you know, when we're talking about defensively, we've been so bad. 44 goals conceded so far this season in 22 games. We're averaging 2 goals a game conceded. It's not sustainable. So that's going to be, I think for me, that's going to be Potter's biggest importance when he first comes in. And, you know, he should be in the dugout for the Aston Villa FA Cup game on Friday. So again, interesting to see how he sets up the players he uses there. But we're going to need to give Potter time. And, you know, we said it, well, I said at the beginning of the season, after that pre-season, I would give Lopetegui 15 games to really assess how we're moving as a football club. I'm going to give Potter even longer than that because he's coming in a situation where he's trying to steady the ship, coming in January. He's probably not going to make an awful lot of signings. He's dealing with a lot of crap that's been left behind. So, you know, I'm not going to judge him even in this 6-month period. We should be able to judge him enough, but I'm not going to make my full judgment unless it's completely diabolical or completely successful. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, Julen Lopetegui has been sacked. It is a shame how it was dealt with, but we do believe it was the right solution. It was the right answer. We got to the right conclusion in the end. And yeah, as you mentioned, Graham Potter, when you talk about managerial appointments you can make in January for free, he's pretty high on the list in terms of that availability for the vacancy. So we'll definitely take it. You know, hopefully this is the start of a new chapter for West Ham. We can rubber stamp what's happened and move on into the new direction for 2025. But yeah, let us know down below in the comment section. Are you happy with how this whole thing's panned out? Are you happy with Graham Potter? Do you think Julen Lopetegui should have been sacked? Do you think he should have been sacked earlier? And yeah, just let us know your thoughts on West Ham at the moment with everything going on. We'll probably do another video once Graham Potter's announced, going into a bit more detail around how he plays, his style of play, analysing and breaking down that in a bit more detail. So make sure to check out for that and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss that. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment down below, and Sloth, until the next one, come on, you Irons.